Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, are you ready to sketch ideas, sketch designs, use CAD, create samples and working models, adapt your ideas to a budget, test your designs, and meet with engineers and others to perfect that design you have in your brain?
No.
Then industrial design is not right for you. Oh, goodness.
So truth be told, James sends me a little note earlier this week and it's like, hey, let's do industrial design. And I was like, we already did industrial engineering like a while ago. I don't know if we posted the episode. And he's like, yeah, they're different. And I was like, and I did. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
Sure, I do.
Yeah. So, and I think it was more just like tomato. Like I would call it like, I don't know.
Hey, I believe you, man. I fully believe you know that they're different. So what we are doing though, and I wasn't going to call you out for that,
Ooh.
I swear. Maybe I have it in my shout out section. What we're doing is continuing our What Is series with What Is Industrial Design, in case people haven't caught on to this.
I feel like this is another one of those, like when I did the research, it seems a little kind of artsy fartsy for me, personally, but I could see this as being something I'd be really interested in. It seems like super creative, which is really interesting, and it's kind of like you can make it as engineering-ish as you want, or you could be completely on the making blobby looking things that can't be manufactured. I mean, you could really be on either end of it.
Yeah,
So.
This is true. I've always thought this was very closely related to engineering. It's kind of like a cousin or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the most respect I can get for an A in STEAM. This is in that arts area, like you're saying, but it's pretty scientific. So I'm good with it.
So what do you think an industrial designer does, James?
Man, I wish that I knew, but do you know?
I'm going to say just top of my head.
Top of your head.
Industrial designers create and develop concepts and specifications that optimize the function, value, and aesthetics of products, environments, systems, and services for the benefit of the user, industry, and society. Industrial design involves the combination of visual arts disciplines, science, and technology, and requires problem solving and communication skills.
Yeah, that's about what I was going to go with.
Top of my head.
Yeah.
My recollection of it happens to be the exact same definition from the National Association of School of Design Handbook, just by chance.
Hey, that's a pretty good reference, though, for people who don't know it off the top of their head.
Yeah. Another one, industrial design is the professional service of creating and developing concepts and specifications that optimize the function and value and appearance of products and systems for the mutual benefit of both the user and manufacturer. That is from the North Carolina State Industrial Design Program.
All right. Well, for people who might not be able to follow all those big words you were just using, I would say that industrial designers design stuff and make it look pretty.
They do, but there's a little bit of manufacturing on their side too.
There's manufacturing, there's functionality, there's keeping things within a budget. There's a lot that goes into it, but I feel like your definitions really nailed it.
The other thing too that I realized was a lot of this kind of crosses over. Like when I think of industrial design, I'm thinking, the iPhone. I'm thinking things that like you hold and touch and interact with like each and every day, like end user consumer product type things.
Yeah.
But industrial designers, they work in automotive applications. They work in architectural applications to make sure that the structure isn't only, good and safe, but also looks nice and makes a nice atmosphere for the people around it. And it's also digital. It's not just physical things. Industrial designers are all about how people interact with like websites and interfaces of different things. So like you could be an industrial designer and the thing you design is an interface that someone's working with on a website perhaps. And it's all about just interacting with something. So
that's interesting. Yeah. I also usually think of it as like the iPhone or like kitchen appliances or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all sorts of different ways you can go with this. Quick history for you, Luke, before we
Shoot.
get into a lot of the normal stuff we talk about here. Industrial design kind of emerged in the mid 18th century. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the growth of
The
industrialization,
Industrial Revolution.
the Industrial Revolution in Great Britain, and then in United States and everywhere else. The rise of the industrial manufacturer changed the way like we do things, right? Urbanization changed the way we consume things. The growth of these huge empires really made things more available for the middle class.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it kind of goes back to all of these things we were just talking about. The item needs to be functional. People want it to look nice in their house, but it also then has to be on a budget. It's not just, the rich podcast hosts that could afford all of this nice stuff.
Exactly.
It had to be there
The
for the
commoners.
middle class. Yeah,
Yeah.
the commoners.
Do you
the
know
first,
the?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, were you just going to say what I was going to say? The first time the term industrial design was ever used?
You know that as well?
I do.
Oh, let's hear it, Luke, please.
1919.
That's when I had it,
The
too.
first use of the term industrial design is attributed to a New Zealand designer. So I think they're called Kiwis over there. I think
They're the same as Australians, right?
no, they get really offended. Apparently, from what I understand. But there's no virus in New Zealand right now. Good
Amazing.
on the prime minister. I'm drawing
They're
a
doing
blank
a
on
good
what her
job.
name is, but they're doing an amazing job on the virus over there. A cat by the name of Joseph Claude Sinnell.
Nailed it.
He was a industrial designer that apparently was, he was the first person to say it, so I'm assuming he was an industrial designer. That's probably not a good assumption. He was probably an engineer, is my guess, and he just used the term industrial design.
Probably. That's just good self-marketing, right? If you
Mhm.
create a whole new genre or whatever we'll call it, that's impressive to me. Any other things you want to throw out there for history, Luke?
So in 1934,
Wow.
a cat by the name of Herbert Reed proclaimed the first and most important principle of industrial design: a factory should conform to the personality of an artist and not vice versa. I don't even know what that really means. And I guess you need to be an industrial designer to kind of understand it. My guess is like if you're working, like you are the industrial designer working in that environment, like it needs to work for me, not me work for it.
I'm going to be honest. The second you said artist, I quit listening to
Yeah,
what
me
you were
too.
talking about. So
Last one, 1934 again.
Ooh, it's a
another
big
cat.
year.
Yeah, it was a very big year. Another
that's
cat.
when you were born too, right?
It was.
Okay.
Robert Lepper. Leeper?
We'll go with
Leppe. We're going to go with Leeper because Lepper sounds terrible. Robert Leeper helped establish one of the country's first industrial design degree programs right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the Carnegie Institute of Technology.
Wow.
It's like when you look at like industrial history, and I know Pittsburgh was the steel town and that's where like the Carnegies were from and stuff like that. But there is so much history in Pittsburgh just because of the Three Rivers and all the things that happened here. But yeah, like the Carnegie Institute of Technology, which is now CMU. I think the name has changed.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's grown over time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you think it was, what was it, the Carnegie Institute of Technology, you said?
Yeah.
And then do you think Mellon was like, yo, here's some money? And they're like,
Sure.
now it's Carnegie Mellon.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. But you are right. Pittsburgh's often found in the center of these things. And then
Yeah.
like a lot of the big names too. I know because of the steel and the location and the rivers, it brought a lot of these people. But you
Mhm.
think of Carnegie, you think of Westinghouse. There are a lot of really influential people in manufacturing
Heck
that
yeah.
had roots here. Okay, so before we get into anything past the history, I think it's already time to take a break for a word from our sponsor.
Goodness gracious. I
I know.
have to assume we didn't mention anybody fun yet. So
I suppose Carnegie Mellon probably doesn't want to sponsor us, right?
No.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a sponsor, but we do have some shout outs.
Who do we got?
So first, I have a very special shout out for any of you who have children out there, and maybe you don't want to babysit your kids because that's just the worst.
It is.
You do want them to learn. Go to YouTube and check out Mackenzie's Book Nook. This is my niece. She's taken to YouTube to start reading books on her YouTube channel, and now everybody can benefit from hearing her sweet, sweet voice. So
is she like a little kid reading books, or is this like how little?
I mean, like this tall.
You have no idea how old she is, do you?
7. She is 7 years old, I'm going with.
Okay. She's probably like 14.
36. She's trying to get enough views.
She's this old, and you're moving your hand up and down to measure height. That's not how it works.
It's not? Oh, okay. Well, I also have more shout outs for you.
Who do you got?
Cal K wants to talk to us about applications for engineering degrees and standing out as an intern. I'm happy to do so, Cal, but we're not very smart. So maybe we'll be misguiding you.
We'll help you with like the soft skills, that sense of humor, that kind of skills. Yeah.
Eric G wrote in, worked at Universal in Japan. So how cool is that, right? But he's back in the States now looking for a job. So all of you theme park folks out there, go ahead and hire this guy, especially if you need someone who's a strong communicator. You know, having a global team, and I know you work with people all over the world too, Luke. I mean, it's tough for me sometimes, and my people are very fluent. So just that cultural difference is really a big thing. And then the last shout out that I have is Carl S. Our fan from the other side of the city in Wexford, Luke, says there's a lot of whippersnappers, which I love that word, out there dropping profanities, and he appreciates us being above that kind of riffraff. So you are welcome, Carl, and you can thank my mom for listening every now and again to keep this clean, because she still will send me to my room and make me think about what I said if she hears something like that. So,
oh, goodness.
Yes. Anyways, if you want to shout out, if you have a book nook that you want me to advertise, or if you just want to say hello, go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and review on all the socials that you happen to listen to. And as always, you can always say please and thank you to your smart devices to play the Unprofessional Engineering Podcast.
Please and thank yous. Luke, the best colleges in the United States for industrial design.
And I don't mean to be a broken record, James, but we keep on coming around to certain schools that we'll get to. But we may have different lists, because I looked at 2 different kind of websites and they were all over the place. The one that I found for number 1 was Rhode Island School of Design.
See, we have very different lists.
Was this thing, 58, almost 59K a year. Fun fact, Seth MacFarlane is a graduate, the guy that writes, that does all the voices and writes Family Guy.
So does that make you want to go there more?
I don't
or
know.
Less?
I don't know. Yeah, so that's my number 1 that I
know
found.
Who makes shows like Family Guy? People that can afford to spend $60,000 to go to a college, because they don't have to be successful.
So you go for 4 years. What is that? $240,000 in college debt, and that's just undergraduate. Let alone if you decide to get a graduate degree.
And does that number even include like housing?
Probably
and,
not.
Your meal plan. I assume you're getting filet every day there. Jeez. Oh my goodness.
Do you want to do my list and then your list?
Let's
and see
hear
if they
your
overlap?
list.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and before you go on, my list was very different. Normally I have like just boom, 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 top degrees. This one actually factored in cost for the degree and basically return on investment from the degree. So go ahead with yours.
My next one was MIT Technology Media Labs. This was specifically a school within MIT called the Media Lab. Really difficult to get into. The acceptance rate was like 14%.
We broke in pretty easily.
We did when we were. That was a fun.
It was. It was
when
a good
we
trip.
did a live. So this is right about 54K a year. crazy, but it's MIT. It's a good school. My number 3 was University of Cincinnati. This was by far,
I saw that on the
this is their
list.
College of Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning. By far the best value. This was right about $27,000 a year. Carnegie Mellon University School of Design was my number 4. This was $42K a year, and that's right here in beautiful, sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then my last one that I listed was Parsons, the New School for Design. This is about $47,000. Fun fact, Mark Jacob and Donna Karen, both clothing line designers, graduated from that school. So I think a lot of this industrial design stuff is very focused on, like, if you think like Seth MacFarlane was like an artist, hand sketching and drawing, voice comedian, all that sort of stuff. Mark Jacob and Donna Karen are, fashion designers. So I think a lot of this industrial design stuff in some places goes towards the fashion side of things. So
Yeah,
at least
that
in my
makes
opinion.
sense. Yeah, and if you think about it, I don't know about all of these schools that you've listed or that I'm listing, but I know Carnegie Mellon in particular has an extremely good arts program as well, like singers, actors, things like that. So it kind of makes sense that they have a real big crossover for, their great technology
Yeah,
programs as well as arts for industrial design.
I did have one more. It fell off my
Oh,
page.
sure.
Pratt Institute.
I saw Pratt listed everywhere for
Everywhere. This was $54K a year. Fun fact: Robert Redford, friend of the show, graduated from
friend.
Pratt Institute back in like the 1700s, is my guess, because he's old as dirt.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been 1800s. I don't know. Best colleges in the U.S. for me. You ready?
What do you got?
Georgia Tech coming in at number 1. I know
I
it's
saw
super
that it was
good.
all over the place. Yeah.
And again, where you bored of this one, 11.4K. And remember, mine took in kind of like return on investment as well. RIT is listed high, 35.7K. Reasons I wouldn't go to RIT. It is so cold and snowy. Oh my goodness. It is awful.
We had a friend of ours' daughter that went to RIT and really, really liked it. Apparently it's an excellent design school.
It is a great school. Where I might suggest you go is Arizona State for 10.1K per year.
Yeah, go Mud
Not
Ducks.
only is it warm, but they're the Mud Ducks, and it's one of the top party schools as well.
It is?
Yeah, it is.
I thought Slippery Rock was.
Slippery Rock is, it's something.
Slippery Rock has not been on any of our lists, and I don't think ever will be.
I don't think so either. University of Houston, 8.6K per year. Cedarville University in Cedarville, Ohio, which I've never heard of, 26.4. Carnegie Mellon, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's expensive. Brigham Young was also listed, 5K per year. Super affordable. They must have some sort of like religious subsidy or something going on to make it that affordable, right?
Yeah, something.
Iowa State, 7.7. San Francisco State University, 6.4K. And I get
these are like that's in like state,
very special.
State.
Yes, and this is like very specialized school, right? And then Keene University in Union, New Jersey, 11,000 a year. But there were some other bigger names like Purdue, Drexel, Illinois, Wisconsin Stout. I know we have a lot of listeners there that have big programs as well.
So let's say you had to do it over again, James. What would be the, like right now with all these schools we've listed, what would be the most you would spend per year on a school? Like in your mind, like if you had to do it over again, you were starting, like what would you be willing to do?
Like no scholarship, nothing, huh?
Yeah.
Looking at my list here, I'm thinking probably 20 something a year.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, there's only so many options. And like Pennsylvania doesn't necessarily have like a Georgia Tech that's 11,000 in state still. Like Penn State was at one point, and now it's super expensive as well. So
yeah, so my wife, I think I've said it before when we've done these works at a university here in Pittsburgh, and they do tuition exchange with other universities. So thank goodness it's something I'm not going to have to really worry about too much.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah, saved me a lot of money.
Yeah. I had 2 worldwide. Zurich, we've talked about many times
Mhm.
before, is a big one listed. And then the Florence Design Academy is another one. That's probably where I would go if I was going to go for
Oh,
industrial design. Florence is a beautiful city, so much art. So it only makes sense that they have a great program as well.
imagine how obese you would be if you lived in Italy. I remember you telling me about your
Uh,
trip and like how
oh
good the
my
food
gosh,
was,
it
and
would be so bad.
yeah.
I wouldn't survive. I'd come back, have a heart attack, and then that would be the end of me. All right, real quick, coursework. Do you have any courses listed? Because I have a
I
few.
know you can list them.
Okay, so an introduction to industrial design would be one of the types of courses. So that would be like you're getting started, maybe your second semester after you get some of those core courses out of the way. It provides general groundwork and best practices to not only understand what you're going to be doing in industrial design, but also how to get employed as an industrial designer. So that's nice. They did
Okay.
not ever help me get a job at college. Industrial design history course. Students learn the history of design from the Industrial Revolution to present day, specifically noteworthy individuals, contributions, things like that. I don't think I had classes like this in engineering either because they were like, shut up, you don't care about that stuff. Go learn how to do the maths. But again, I think the history in industrial design is that much more important because you really see how it's grown and changed over the years and you're
Yeah.
kind of learning from that as opposed to being given a formula and saying like, no, here's the formula, go do that.
Well, I also think that like engineering principles like never change, where like
Right.
industrial design,
We hope they
you
don't.
know, like this idea of becoming like lean manufacturing and the idea of making things, smaller, better, more efficient, that sort of thing. I think that the human side of the interaction is always going to be changing.
Mhm.
Where like, engineering's engineering. The like to your point, the formula is the formula. So
Yeah. They take a lot of courses on materials and manufacturing. So, materials, of course, they need to know what's going to be affordable, what's readily available, what looks nice in different manufacturing processes. Kind of like when you have injection molding and you're going to have, little dips in your products. Is there ways to mask that? Do different colors work to hide those kind of defects? Things of that sort. Industrial design studio courses. This is more like a hands on experience and a lot of industrial design courses are more hands-on or like labs as opposed to
I gotcha.
engineering, which is with a book.
So is this the class where they get their tattoos and their
Mhm.
flannels?
Yes,
The
exactly.
same class? Okay.
Nailed it. Yeah. If you pass. If you pass. Computer design tools. CAD is a big piece
Big
of
time.
industrial design. So that kind of connects us together. And then, of course, they have all sorts of specialty project courses. Again, those hands on things, go design a blender, whatever it might be. So
Okay.
that's what I have listed as courses. But before we move on, Luke, it is time for this week's Luke's rant.
Okay, so my rant is I hate to bring this all the way back again.
Do you?
Yeah, you know what? We're talking about industrial design. I got to come back to the iPhone and the iWatch again. So, and I don't know if I'm doing something wrong here, James, but I get, and maybe this, you know what? This is the Luke
You
is
can't
old.
see it on mine.
This is the Luke old as hour right now because I can't figure out why. I get text messages on my watch that I don't see on my phone, but my watch is tethered to my phone. So how do I have messages on my watch that I can't see on my phone?
Do you just not get the notice on your phone,
can't
or
even
do they
see
not show up on your phone at all?
Like I have a person today where they sent me a text message this morning and I can read it on my watch. But when I look at that same text message from that person on my phone, it's from like 3 days ago, the last one they sent me. And I don't know. I'm just so fed up. I'm almost to the point, James, with like all the updates and like my phone is starting to slow down. I think yours is probably too. You're noticing, Apple pushes out those updates to purposely slow down phones. So you buy the 12s, and
So
I'm
much hate.
almost to the point where I'm going to buy an Android, but I picked up my brother's Android the other day and I didn't even know how to turn the thing on. It was like, what are all these things on here? Like where's like the phone? So I don't know. I think that technology made this really awesome swing like phone and communication technology, made this awesome swing with the iPhone, simplified everything, made it easy, made it accessible. And I think it's going the other direction. I think things are getting too complicated. You got all these Fitbits and all these different things you're connecting to. And maybe it's me being old and crotchety and I just don't understand it.
We need to go back to the Nokia bricks, man. Simple. All
it does one
is
thing.
Call
it
and
makes
it doesn't
call.
break. Yeah.
Give me a pager.
So I don't know why your watch and phone are behaving like that, but I will say that I know certain people that would probably like that functionality to keep some of their text messages to themselves.
Yeah.
Just saying, if you need a business plan. All right, Luke, moving on. What will you make? What's the job outlook? Do you have anything on that?
I don't have like specific outlook stuff, but I do have some pay
Let's hear
information. So the median pay, and this is United States, the median pay is $59,109. So it's not terrible. Where it starts to get a little terrible is if you stay in that industrial design position. On the low end, you're going to make about $42,000 a year, like coming out of college. So not great. With 20 years of experience, and
let's say not great when you're spending $59,000 a year on your tuition, right?
When you have like over $200,000 in debt. But with 20 years of experience, you only go up to like $87,000 a year. Now that's if you stay in that position. So if you stay as an industrial designer, you're like that person like, oh, I love my job and I'm not going to change and blah, 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 blah. If you get into senior level or director level, which is kind of the progression for an industrial designer, you would start out and then you'd start to run a department and then you might run the whole design department. Then you might be a director. They get up into like the 125 ranges. And then if you're like a unicorn and you're like the cat that worked at Apple, Jonathan Ives, IVE, the guy that designed the iPhone, he's probably doing okay. So obviously, but I would say it seems like a decent career.
It seems like a decent career, maybe a little less than engineers expect. And my range was about the same as you. Not bad money at all. Just maybe a little lower than some of the comparable engineering degrees.
Interesting fact.
Oh, go ahead.
The breakdown from male to female is 72% male and 27% female. So it's actually a more equal breakdown than traditional engineering. Traditional engineering is somewhere like 80-20, somewhere in that range. So it's actually a little bit better, but still needs to work on it and become a little more equitable.
I would like to now take this chance to announce the Unprofessional Engineering Scholarship for getting women into STEM. So that does not exist.
Do we have any money to do that?
No, we want
that to happen, but we have no money to help.
Yes, we do not. 3% growth expected every year. So continuing to grow, not big. It's about keeping up with the average of most industries. I have a list of people who are going to hire you. So everybody's going to hire you because, like we said, this is used all over the place. But Glassdoor says these are people who are really going to hire you a lot and that they're actively looking right now. HP, so computers and all the other devices they make, printers. People still use printers. I love that. Procter & Gamble, Steelcase, our friends up at Steelcase in beautiful Michigan, right? GE Appliances, Hasbro was interesting.
Ooh,
Kohler,
toys. Nice.
Yeah, toys. Makes sense, right? Honeywell, Stryker, Fitbit, Nokia. And then there's like what I noticed is there's a ton of firms that do this.
That's all they do.
It seems like it's really big to have industrial design firms that's what they do. And you're kind of like contracted out to these companies to do the process for them. So that's rather interesting.
So the two that I had one was called Pininfarina. They were founded in 1930. They're the world's leading design firm for automotive industry. They're headquartered in Turin, Italy, and they specialize in luxury and grand luxury vehicles. So they would partner up with like a Rolls-Royce, a BMW, a Mercedes, and do some industrial design concept work as like a contract, and then hand that off to a luxury automotive company to then take that further.
when you're dropping names and Mercedes is the bottom of the barrel, man,
Yeah.
you're doing something right at that point.
Another one is called IDEO, IDEO. It's a California-based design firm, and they are ranked as one of the most innovative companies in the world by many global business leaders. Before we
Very
wrap up the
interesting.
companies, though, I do want to talk about pay by location. I forgot that I
Let's
had
hear
this.
it.
So this is all
It turns out
national
that
average.
matters. Yes.
Yes. So national average, we said, was 53 and some change. If you live in San Francisco, you will make 23% more than the national average. It doesn't help that the cost of living is 5,000% more. So you're still going to live on the streets pretty much.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is 3% more than the national average. So you'll make 3%.
We're a pretty affordable place
Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, 10% less. That surprised me.
And you'll get stabbed for that money. So
Grand Rapids, and I assume this is Steelcase and Herman Miller,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Because they're both in Michigan, I think.
Yep.
Is 12% more. So Grand Rapids is 12% more.
Boy, that has to be nice.
And Chicago, which you would think would be better, it's 7.5% less. It could be the fact that it's the murder capital of the United States that people don't want to go and work and live there, perhaps.
You'd think you'd have to get paid more then to go do that. That's interesting. That's good info, Luke. So what are you going to do as an industrial designer? I know we talked about a lot of this, but some quick points. Research who's going to use your product and the different ways that it might be used. Sometimes they're going to be working on something that's used in multiple ways that they didn't expect. Sketch out ideas and create blueprints. Use computer software, including CAD, rendering software, visualization, and even virtual reality or augmented reality at this point are really coming into the mix for industrial design, even more so than engineering. Examine materials and production costs to determine your manufacturing requirements. Work with other specialists to evaluate whether design concepts will actually fit the need of the product, as well as be cost efficient. Evaluate product safety. That sounds terrible. I don't want to do that. And present designs and demonstrate prototypes to clients, things like that. And then, of course, work with engineers, because you can't do something without an engineer, right?
So I have a list of 3 famous engineers. I actually mentioned one of them. So I got a list of 2 additional famous engineers. And then I had a question about the future of industrial design that I wanted to get your opinion on.
I have a couple bullets on STEM for our high school listeners, but go ahead with yours first.
So I mentioned John Ives. He's the iPhone guy, famous industrial designer. James Dyson. If you haven't listened to our podcast on Dyson, he was an industrial designer. He's the guy that makes the $700 sweeper, which is bananas to me. And Adam Savage, I forget where he graduated from college, but Savage is apparently an industrial designer. Mythbuster has his own show, does that sort of thing.
I would have never guessed that. I could see Dyson, but that really surprises me. Interesting.
So my question is, do you think with like artificial intelligence, like AI, generative design, like all these design things where like the computers are starting to design things for you?
Yeah.
Do you think that industrial design is going to decrease and they'll rely on computers and then traditional engineers to take it from there? Or do you think that you'll still need industrial designers to kind of guide some of those things that's happening with AI and computers and generative design and those sorts of things?
So I think both. I think what we're going to see is that computers are going to do a lot of it, kind of like with our jobs as well. And for people like me, who's like, oh yeah, that computer can go design it. If I like it, we're good to go. But then I think that we have this whole like the millennial subculture that's going to be coming up, that's like they need that human feel, and even if they get a crappier product that's stupid and uglier, they'll still want to buy that. I honestly believe that's going to be what keeps things like this moving, like so that humans are doing it.
Okay.
What about you?
Take. I think what's going to happen is you'll see less need for industrial designers.
Okay.
Because all the inputs that we want to be able to solve and all the, like, I'll say methodology can be designed with the AI, and then what you would do is just a traditional engineer can then take that and make it
Okay.
manufacturable. So I do think it's going to go down. I don't think it's going to go away completely, because you need like the super intelligent person that's super creative to come up with just the idea of whatever it's going to be. But all those people like under that would then do all like the legwork. I think a lot of that legwork is going to go to AI personally.
I could see that. Yeah. All right, Luke, to wrap things up here for our STEM, high school, middle school, even maybe even college,
It's
well,
all about
maybe
the
that
kids,
listeners,
James.
it's all about the kids with us, Luke. Things you can do to like help out building up your resume, either to get into college or just to understand if this is something you're interested in. Volunteer to build sets and props for your school's theater and arts productions. That's pretty cool. You can learn a lot of stuff about materials as well as the, you know, prototyping process, I would say. Do your best in science so that you have your strong foundations for your college
Hmm.
courses. Art class, which, oh, it pains me to say this, it will help you develop the eye for design and like to understand the details that you have to look out for. It helps with your sketching skills and again for your early stage prototyping. Oh gosh. I told you that was my first C ever was art class, right?
Oh,
Sign up for computer aided design. So if you have CAD courses, do that. And then you can always go into engineering as well and forget about this stuff. Learn what tools and materials can be used in shop classes. This is just like an interesting mix that was not available in my school. And math classes, especially things like geometry and algebra, really important measurements and proportions, fractions, all of that stuff.
yeah. I
So
think the
just
challenge
some
kids are going to
tips.
face with that is, I think a lot of school districts now, they separate. I'll
Exactly.
call them industrial arts. They physically go to a whole separate school where they
Yes.
focus on like wood shop, machine shop. They do a lot of times the automotive programs are there, and
Hmm.
so I think it would be difficult in some school districts to do that. If yours, like where I went to school, they did that, but we still had CAD at the high school, so I could take
On the
CAD
occasion you
classes.
went to class,
On the
that's what
occasion that I went,
happened.
the
Right.
only A's I ever got were in CAD.
That's pretty good. It explains a lot about you. Well,
Oh,
hopefully you all learned a lot about industrial design and putting that A in STEAM. If any of you have any questions about industrial design that you think maybe we could answer, you want to stop by and say hello, whatever the case may be, go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time.
see ya.